Climate change is one of the most pressing global challenges of our time. Working towards solving the world's biggest sustainability challenges and bringing about large systematic changes and impacting people's lives, ET-Edge, the Times Group, is building a momentum with the special initiative of Global Sustainability Alliance. The second episode of the BSG presents Times Now Global Sustainability Alliance, the 6th edition of SDG Summit, will feature policymakers, business leaders and subject experts who express their views and press the need to transform economies for people, nature and climate. The initiative was supported by IMPEX Tech Limited as the strategic partner, co-powered by JINDAL Steel and Power Limited and SUNSURE Energy.
हम दुनिया की 17% आबादी है। हमारा जो कार्बन एमिशन है दुनिया में वो इथोपिया से भी कम है। इसका अर्थ ये नहीं कह रहे कि कार्बन एमिशन होना चाहिए। हमारे यहाँ मेट्रो का विस्तार है, हमारे यहाँ टेक्नोलॉजी का विस्तार है, हमारे यहाँ सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी का विस्तार है, हमारे यहाँ रिन्यूएबल की क्षमताओं का विस्तार है। और इसलिए सरकार जब हाइड्रोजन मिशन से लेकर के बड़े मिशन को आगे बढ़ाने की बात कर रही है तो सरकार की पूरी प्रतिबद्धता है। और इसीलिए मैं आपको कह रहा हूँ कि 2019 का जो ग्रीन हाउस गैस GHG का जो हमारा सबमिशन है उसकी तुलना दुनिया के सामने रखी जानी चाहिए कि भारत ने अपनी जो इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ करी है उसी के साथ साथ इकोलॉजी के मामले में भी भारत ने दुनिया के लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त करा है।
In a special address, Deepak Rai, Managing Director, IMPEX Tech, spoke on changing industry dynamics and the role of the real estate sector in opting sustainability-oriented innovation and transformation.
काफ़ी सालों से आई थिंक क्लाइमेट चेंज पे बात चल रही है, बट क्लाइमेट एक्शन इज़ मिसिंग और एक्चुअल में ऑन ग्राउंड तो टोटली मिसिंग है। हम लोग ESG की बात कर रहे थे, दैट्स फाइन। हम में से सब लोगों के ऑफिसेज हैं, कितने ऑफिसेज नेट जीरो हैं? नथिंग। वी जस्ट थिंकिंग कि कोई नहीं, पड़ोसी करेगा, दूसरा करेगा, गवर्नमेंट करेगी। सो दिस इज़ द बिग प्रॉब्लम। मिसिंग क्या है? कुछ लोग सोचते हैं सस्टेनेबल है, महंगा होगा, फंड्स नहीं हैं। ऐसा भी नहीं है। आज की डेट में पूरे वर्ल्ड वाइड सस्टेनेबल कंस्ट्रक्शन के सबसे ज़्यादा फंड्स हैं। कितने फंड्स इंडिया में आ रहे? बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव लाइक एडॉप्टेबिलिटी फॉर दीज टाइप ऑफ थिंग्स। सो हम इस रेस में भी पीछे हो रहे हैं। अगर हमने आज एक्शन नहीं लिया तो इट्स टू लेट। एग्जीक्यूशन दिस इज़ द ओनली की। हम सिर्फ अगर एग्जीक्यूशन नहीं करेंगे, अगर कंज्यूम लेस नहीं करेंगे, सेंसिटिव नहीं होंगे, तो कितने भी गवर्नमेंट एफर्ट्स कर ले, इट विल नॉट सफिशिएंट फॉर एनीवन। यहाँ से 400 किलोमीटर दूर एक टाउन है झांसी। हमने वहाँ पे वर्ल्ड फर्स्ट नेट जियो लाइब्रेरी बनाई। वो बिल्डिंग हमने 90 डेज़ में कंप्लीट की। इस एशियाज़ फास्टेस्ट कंस्ट्रक्शन फॉर गवर्नमेंट। वहाँ आज 250-300 किड्स आते हैं बच्चे, एंड दे आर सीइंग द वर्ल्ड क्लास फैसिलिटी फॉर गवर्नमेंट। सो पॉसिबिलिटी है एंड हो सकता। बाकी इसको स्केल अप करने के लिए वी हैव टू वर्क टुगेदर एवरीवन।
In Bhutas, in our organization, the sustainability is in our DNA. Like we are the India's first net zero construction company, and we are providing the solution from design, build, and operation maintenance. Whatever the project we are taking is highly efficient, and we are reducing around 85% carbon emission, less carbon emission in the operations.
So as a leader, what is your vision for your organization's contribution to global sustainability efforts by 2030? And how do you plan to lead the charge towards these goals?
See, we are working like whatever we are doing for net zero and sustainability side. So broadly, we can divide our goal till 2030 in 3 phases. First, we are committed to make around 500 buildings for net zero. So this becomes from brown to green, because lots of infrastructure we have, but it's not sustainable. So we are converting brown buildings, existing building, into net zero buildings. So we have making target till 2030s will go to 500 buildings. Second, we are working for the farmers. So we are making the net zero cold storage. So this is happening in the first time for the rural area where we are wasting lots of foods and waste. So we are covering this, and we are making net zero cold storage. And third, in the because we are working for the remote areas, decentralized building. So we are cutting down the urban, like everybody moving from the village to urban side. So we are trying to cut down this also. So we are trying to like our villages go to Atmanirbhar and then our country will go to Atmanirbhar.
Sure. So, are there any challenges that you are facing while taking these steps?
It's a challenge because so many things we are doing first time in the world. So obviously it's lots of research and development and lots of execution issue we facing, but proudly I'm saying we are solving and we are delivering the things.
Sure. And what are the strategies that can help bridge the gap between business interests and climate action objectives, ensuring alignment across sectors? And do you face economic challenges while executing sustainable construction solutions?
This is just a mindset. Firstly, everybody understand that sustainable construction is a high cost or it's very tough things. So it's not like this. Sustainable construction is, if you see from my angle and go in the route, is cheap because if you're doing it's like if you're planning for long term or the short term. If you're planning for the long term and doing the net zero buildings or sustainable, it's giving you lots of financial benefits. Second, is working for the ground level for the poor people, because if you're making the off-grid buildings where is no infrastructure of electricity, no roads, there also you can make the sustainable building, so you can upgrade in the life of the lower level also. So from my side, like initial cost may be 10 to 20% higher, but if you go long term, because you are saving, like we are generating 100% energy on site. So energy future, nobody know what cost will be go. So if you're making net zero buildings, so I think it's a value side, it's a more cheaper.
Sure, sir. And as the fastest growing economy, development comes with the cost. Like you were just mentioning that it's people tend to think that sustainability is on the higher cost. But do you think that India can lead climate action? And what is the future of construction?
In Bhutas, we are doing so many things what not happen in the world. So like we are making the decentralized building. There should be no connection of electricity, water in the sewer. So we are making very high efficient building, because in the future crisis for water and air, everybody feeling this. Second, we are working for the decentralized building. Due to this, on the remote area, you can upgrade the life, you can make the industries, you can make the cold storage in the rural area. So economy will go to the bottom level also. And I think we are very near to make the world first net zero cold storage and data center also. So as a proudly Indian, I can say we are doing in India these all things.
Sure, sir. Your predictions for the construction industry for 2025?
In prediction, if you say in terms of the sustainable construction, that's sure it will go, because now it's not a compulsion, but slowly due to carbon credits and due to the current scenario. So I think this is the only way. This is the only way. If you're making the buildings now and if you're not making the net zero sustainable buildings, you're doing the big mistakes, because slowly European company, Indian company, everybody want the highly sustainable net zero buildings because they want to save the carbon credits. So I think that's the only way. So yeah.
Sure, Mr. Rai, thank you so much for your insights today, and thank you for your time.
Next in line was Leaders Dialogue, where Videy Kumar Jaipuriar, CEO of Delhi International Airport GMR Group, gave an insight into the carbon emissions at the Delhi airport and how Delhi International Airport is transforming it into a carbon-free airport.
Moving to one of the customers, I think, Mr. Videy Kumar, infrastructure boom in India is a given. So how do you think about sustainability or climate and sustainability goals for DIL? What are your aspirations for DIL in this area?
Interesting question. Just to give you a little bit of a breakup of typical carbon emission that happens at the airport. So there are close to about 5% of the emission which is non-aircraft related emission. So if you break it into a scope 1, a scope 2 and a scope 3, possibly 50% of that is a scope 1 and scope 2. And DIL is worldwide the only airport having 40 million plus passenger traffic which has got a net zero accreditation from Airport Council International. How we have been able to do it is basically look at all the different aspects and starting from design stage. So whether it is Terminal 1 getting a USGC pre-certification for platinum green building, or building up Eastern Cross Taxiway, thereby reducing 55,000 tons of carbon for the aviation sector, which is more scope 3, changing everything into AV, whatever is the DIAL-owned vehicle, DIAL-operated vehicle, and moving to 100% green energy. So currently we have got close to about 7% of our energy which is at site, and the rest of the energy we have got a tie-up, PPA, with a hydroelectric plant where we have also invested. So we have led the overall airport sector in terms of actually reducing the carbon footprint. Next is scope 3. So in scope 3, we are working with the respective stakeholders. So airlines being the biggest one. Next, in terms of the ground handling equipment, which is another big source of carbon generation. So we are looking at electrification of that and reducing the movement. For climate action to be really effective, firstly it has to be stated in the mission itself. So we ensure that in our mission statement, we clearly have spelled that all the actions that we will do has to be environment friendly, has to be climate friendly. After that, in any infrastructure sector, you have to start from the planning stage itself. So we incorporate some of the principles at the time of design itself. Just to give you an example, in Terminal 1, which has just been completed, we had got a pre-certification from US Green Building Council as a LEED Platinum. So that ensure that while we complete this, while the cost of making a green building may be 5 to 7% higher, but the kind of energy efficiency it gives you, it can easily pay back in 10 to 15 years, and which is good from an infrastructure development point of view. Next is in operational efficiency, and third is about how do you use technology to reduce your carbon footprint. So for example, Delhi airport is already a water positive airport. It's a single-use plastic-free airport. So we always put that as specific objectives for all the departments, operating department, and not only sustainability. Delhi airport has been one of the first airport across the world to actually get a certification for net zero by Airport Council International. So at airport carbon accreditation level, we are 5.0 level, which basically means that for scope 1 and scope 2 emission, we have reduced our carbon emission by more than 90%. And we are working on scope 3. Scope 3 is something that is a bigger challenge. So that is where we are working with different stakeholders, and we are confident that in scope 3, other than the aircraft related emission, we will be able to cut down the scope 3 emission also by 50% in the next 3 to 4 years time. One of the most important part is to build the sustainability objective in respective department objectives itself. So whatever action plan that they have, it has to be mindful of the kind of action that they need to take. That is one. Secondly, in terms of understanding that what impact a climate change is going to have on the respective working, whether it is in terms of operations, whether it is in terms of the development, we make a prediction. We are also working on a modeling that how is climate change going to impact various operations at airport, and we incorporate that as part of the business plan, and even the individual members get assessed on that.
In the ministerial address, Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State, Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, opined the importance of SDG in today's world.
Sustainable goals and the concerns related to Most of these issues have been very high on the priority, high on the agenda. Now it's no longer, as I said, a commitment. It's also no longer an option. It's a compulsion. It's the only way forward for all of us. And we have to achieve or realize that goal of whatever India 2047. We have no other option but to be a part of it.
In the Leaders Dialogue, Rohit Vora, CEO at Jindal Panther Cement, deciphered the adoption of ESG for the core sectors like cement. Here are some takeaways from his session.
Coming to the ESG adoption for the core sector like us, cement, steel, the journey essentially has three drivers. The first driver is what I would say the affirmative action from the industry, from the manufacturing side of the business, which is essentially a push. That means the industry itself has looked at areas where we can reduce the carbon footprint. The second has been the policy support or the regulatory framework, which is both domestic as well as international, which in terms of the benefits that the government is giving or internationally cheaper finance and all that. And the third largest driver, which I feel is something which we don't focus on much, but is critical for the scalability, is the consumer pool. That will the consumers now voluntarily make a choice which is sustainable, which is they voluntarily go for green products. If you look at 15-20 years back, we were producing cement. For every ton of cement we produce, we were emitting half a ton of carbon. Today, we have replaced the clinker, which is the basic raw material, and 80% of our cement that comes in the market is a blended cement. Today, that carbon footprint is 30% less. Just imagine the impact. Last financial year, we closed at 430 million tons of cement production. 500,000 tons would have given us 215. Today, we are doing only 0.35 tons per ton of cement that we make. So we have saved almost 150 million tons of carbon.
Next was a very engaging conversation with the subject experts where Sanjay Singh, Director, Strategy and External Relations, Jindal Steel and Power, presented his view on decarbonization and adoption of green energy leadership by Jindal Steel and Power.
As a pioneer in the space, Jindal Steel and Power, you've been focusing on decarbonization and green energy leadership for quite a long time now. What is your take, Sanjay ji, on how you prioritize doing this despite the evident cost? And what is your vision for the steel industry in India?
What I can say, what is doable. Electric arc furnace can produce green steel easily by the steps we have taken in Jindal Steel. Number one, green hydrogen production we are going to start from 2025. We are going to produce around 4,500 tons of green hydrogen by 2025. That will be primarily used in electric arc furnace. Prior to that, we have also pioneered production of synthesis gas from coal, because the coal-based DRI, that is in terms of DRI production, the mainstream, but in production of synthesis gas, we have been a pioneer. And along with that, we are working on carbon capture. We have done some pilots on carbon capture and a host of other things. But the challenge lies in when we are going to green blast furnaces, carbon capture is going to be the model. Efficiency can be brought in by introducing predictive tech, precision tech, that can enhance efficiency. But along with that, that is only short-term measure. Through that, 25 to 30% of emission can be reduced. But primarily, it's going to be on the basis of carbon capture in the blast furnace route.
Next in line was a special interview with the business leaders who opined on the issue of sustainability and how their companies are dealing with it.
Our company is taking basically multiple pathways, as there is no silver bullet which can really help us to do this transformation or transition within a day. So starting from the short-term goals, we are focusing on the operational efficiencies and energy efficiencies, how we can valorize the off gases coming from our blast furnaces, from the BOF gases and from the coke oven gases. That's part one. Part two is about how we can use or utilize the co-products that are coming from our plant. So instead of selling it, and which will increase the scope 3 emission, we are evaluating and exploring how we can use it internally, and we have found out multiple usage points where we can use them within our company. This is on the short-term goals. The medium-term goal is basically how we can deploy the carbon capture utilization strategies. We are the largest company in the world which is capturing more than 3,000 tons of CO2. Now our focus is how we can utilize, how we can scale the overall technology on the utilization part. So basically converting this captured CO2 into important chemicals like methanol, ethanol is one. Second, on the mineralogical way, how we can push or inject this CO2 into the important rocks or the nearby periodic rocks which are available near to our plant. And third is basically how we can use this captured CO2 biologically to convert into crude algae oil, which can be used to make sustainable aviation fuel. So that's on the medium term goal. The long term goal is absolutely the silver bullet that we have. That's the green hydrogen slash blue hydrogen. So we are evaluating, we are trying to optimize how we can reduce the levelized cost of hydrogen. And just to do a stress test, we are putting up India's biggest green hydrogen plant of 30 megawatt, which is going to be the largest in India, and the timeline to commission this plant will be by end of next year. So this will give us enough as a proof of concept plus enough data points how we can do the synchronization of the green hydrogen with our DRI kilns and along with the renewable energy that is coming from our captive power plant that is going to come up in Bikaner by end of next year.
JINDAL Steel and Power is pioneer in innovating, applying novel technologies. For instance, synthesis gas, which is produced by coal. So we replaced coal and started using synthesis gas as a reductant in steel making. It means taking out oxygen from Fe2O3. That also prepares us to utilize green hydrogen in time to come. So we have the infrastructure ready. The second thing we are doing right now is we are in the process of setting up green hydrogen production facility, and would be producing around 4,500 tons of green hydrogen beginning next year. JINDAL Steel Group is investing and is going to set up a facility to produce 3 gigawatt of renewable energy. So these are the kind of main things which we are doing. Along with that, a lot of innovation is happening. We have tied up with IIT Mumbai and doing the research with them. Then we are also doing a lot of work in carbon capture, because carbon capture is the key. And blast furnace, which produces most of the steel, that can only be made green by utilizing, by applying carbon capture technology. If there is commitment at the top, at the chairman level, at the director level, then it makes a lot of difference. There is need to identify champions, and those champions even let it percolate further. This has a very, very important impact if such kind of thought process flows from the top, and that has been the key of bringing in the culture of sustainability in JINDAL Steel Power.
There are opportunities in the area of renewable energy and other emerging sectors such as solar, wind, hydro, waste to energy initiatives. There will be extended support is required for green hydrogen and other frontier technologies. Electric mobility is another segment where a lot of opportunities are there, and there are support opportunities in the area of related infrastructure technology. Green housing is another area. If you come to the liability side, then banks can raise funds through green deposit and bonds. Funds can be raised through sustainability linked instruments where, based on the performance of portfolio, additional incentives can be provided to the borrower. There will be access to multilateral development bank funding if more and more sustainability linked instruments can be targeted. As a bank, we have huge opportunities in hard to abate sectors such as steel, cement and chemicals, which are responsible for high level of emission. These sectors need to move towards less carbon emission technology process, and in that process bank will have huge opportunity to support them in this plan. There will be opportunities in the area of renewable energy and emerging sectors like green hydrogen and other frontier technology. There are opportunities in the area of electric mobility and all supporting infrastructure related activities. In the area of green housing also there will be opportunities. On liability side, there are opportunities in the area of green deposit and bonds. Banks can raise money through green deposit and bonds, which will ultimately diversify borrowing base of the bank, and also long-term fund can be generated through multilateral agencies.
Hero Future Energy has adopted several strategies, including zero emission goal, and given the focus of the organization on the renewable energy, we have taken several steps, including our expanding the renewable energy generation. So we are investing into large and further capacities to increase the share of renewable energy in Indian grid, so that it will reduce the overall emission for the Indian power sector. Circularity is another aspect that we have considered very important for us in our net zero transition journey. So we are looking at and we are choosing the material and the technologies which has a lower carbon emission, and we are also adopting the strategies so that to ensure that how we can achieve the maximum 3R principle: reduce, reuse and recycle. So that is another strategy.
The Global Sustainability Alliance SDG Summit was culminated in a very positive note. It reiterated successfully the emerging challenges of rising temperature, which will become worse in the not too far distant future. BSG and Times Now will keep the flame alive till all of us start making change in the way we all live.